Thomas Baldrick here at ASCO 2013. The MD Anderson Cancer Center is known around the world because of some outstanding professionals doing great work there in cancer care. And one of those people is joining us now. Her name is Ishwaria Subbiah, MD. She is a clinical fellow in medical oncology at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. Thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
So you are a bona fide, certified, legitimate superstar, award winner for your poster.
Oh, you're very kind. You're very kind. No, the Conquer Cancer Foundation has a modality through their merit awards to encourage young investigators to present high-quality work at this meeting, and that's the type of support that's crucial to helping fellows and young investigators along in the early part of their careers. So we're very grateful to the foundation.
So winning an award here means a lot. It keeps you going, inspires you, makes all the hard work seem worth it.
Absolutely, absolutely. ASCO is the premier organization for clinical oncology, so any type of encouragement they provide to young investigators is invaluable to our training.
Okay, let's dive into your work a little bit. It involves cancer care, clinical trials in the elderly. How well are they represented in clinical trials?
You know, elderly patients, they're surprisingly very poorly represented in clinical trials. Based on which study you look at, it's anywhere from 5 to 10% of a clinical trial population is the elderly patients. But you look at the number of new cancer cases in the country every year, and the elderly patients form a significant portion of that. And there are many challenges that are unique to treating that population that you really cannot explore in these large trials when you simply don't have the numbers there to look that focus specifically on this population.
Tell us about your trial specifically.
So on my study, my trial came out of several encounters in the clinic where we had a series of older patients in their 70s who were in great shape, and they did have advanced cancer, but they maintained an active lifestyle. It wasn't affecting their quality of life or what we call their performance status. But there was a reluctance to enroll them on phase 1 clinical trials. Now, these are patients who had already relapsed on the standard of care, second, even third line regimen, so they had been through quite a bit of prior treatments, but they're still doing well overall. Their cancer did progress on the prior treatments, but they're maintaining a great quality of life. And they come to a phase 1 clinical trials program looking for novel therapeutic options. And we felt a reluctance to enroll an older patient on a trial, and what I wanted to do was to quantify the reasons. Well, what is the reasons that would hold back a clinician or an elderly patient from considering participating in a clinical trial? So at the phase 1 clinical trials program at MD Anderson, they see thousands of patients a year. So we looked at the subset of patients who are over age 65, and we looked at the outcomes in terms of their response to treatment, their overall survival, their time to treatment failure, as well as their toxicity profiles, meaning what type of side effects did they have that was a result of the treatment, and to see if it is any different than the younger patients from age 40 to 65. And that's the general premise of the question that we asked in this trial.
And what results did you find? What have you presented?
So at this meeting today, we presented the data on 347 patients out of 1,182. So approximately 29% of the patients who participated in our clinical trials were age 65 and above. And that's well above what the average has been. So already you're starting off with a motivated population. And among those patients, we noted that a majority, over 80%, had a preserved performance status. Their ECOG performance status was 0 to 1, meaning that they performed most of their daily activities without any assistance. And they had a limited end organ evidence of metastatic cancer. So they had preserved renal function, they had preserved kidney function. And among these patients, we enrolled a majority of them, over 70%, on a targeted agent therapy. And of that, 64 patients overall received a investigational, non-FDA approved agent. So most of these are actually first-in-human trials. So this is really uncharted territory when you're talking about drug development and clinical trial design. And what we found was that the incidence of side effects, high-grade side effects that's graded by the CTCAE as grades 3 or 4, was no higher in the elderly patients over 65 when compared to patients between age 40 to 65. So these patients, they don't have any higher incidence in side effects than the younger population. In terms of their overall survival and the time to treatment failure, we found that having a poorer performance status, an ECOG-PS of 2 to 3, did correlate with a shorter time to treatment failure and overall survival. And similarly, we found that the presence of liver metastases has also correlated with a shorter time to treatment failure and overall survival.
So based on the data, you must be encouraged, and based on the award, you must be inspired.
Absolutely.
So how would you expand this research going forward?
The initial goal of this research is to allay some of the concerns that clinicians may have about putting patients on a targeted therapy-based trial, especially with an investigational agent. We hope that by showing the large number of patients that we're able to, who were treated on these investigational agents, that they can tolerate it well and they don't have any more side effects than the younger population. The second phase of this is to address the overall issue, which is a gross underrepresentation of the elderly in clinical trials. And what we're ultimately trying to do is to incorporate a very streamlined geriatric assessment at the beginning of a clinical trial, so that the clinician can use that as part of the decision tree to see if a patient may actually benefit from this trial. And the goal is to remove as much of any subjective biases that we may have from having taken care of elderly patients for decades in many clinicians' cases, so that we can really give the most opportunities to our patients.
How important is overcoming current mindsets that people have about the elderly in clinical trials?
There are true concerns, and then there are concerns that we can disprove with our research. The true concerns are, yes, at a certain age point, people develop medical conditions, comorbidities, that take away the functional reserve that somebody has, and that's absolutely true. The scientific aspect of it would be to objectify that in a metric, in a tool that a clinician can use to see, well, okay, you have heart disease, or okay, you have high cholesterol, or whatever medical issue, but is that going to lead to a poorer outcome if you participated in this clinical trial? Especially if you have a preserved performance status. If you're exercising twice a day, or you go walking and you're able to do everything that you need to take care of yourself by yourself without assistance, then should having concurrent comorbid medical conditions preclude you from being on clinical trials? There are elderly who are too frail to go on studies for one reason or another, and they rightfully should, their quality of life should be preserved. But there are others who are eligible for studies and who are in a good shape overall, that we are working to make sure that they get the same opportunities to be represented on these trials. So.
Congratulations on your award.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on your research.
Thank you.
And best of luck going forward, because it seems as we grow older and people live longer, your work is only going to grow in importance.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.